Alright guys, welcome to another edition of Anything Wrestling. I want to thank all the skeptics, all the audience.
Hey,
I gotta start it again.
We're live here, buddy.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Anything Wrestling. I'm back here again with the crew. We got another triple threat going. It's the Commish, Dan, the Man, and the Shant. How you guys doing?
I'm good, but I'm walking out with the title tonight.
You know, we got the WWF.
Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Commish. And I will be the advocate of this podcast because we are now going to go extreme.
And to be joined by WCW. So, we're here to talk about the InVasion angle of 2001. First of all, I want to take a quick survey.
Hey, yo.
Personally, what did you guys think of the InVasion angle? Just as a whole, a lot of people say WWF botched it, that it could have been a whole lot more. Dan, you've gone on record of saying you really don't have a problem with it. What do you guys think?
Since Dan already said something about it, I think personally, it was good, but could have been great. Yeah. It had so much that potential-wise, story-wise, you could have utilized a whole lot of different talent back then as well. Also, you did have a key wrestler missing. A couple of them, yeah. Either mostly not there or just completely not there at all. Yeah. And we'll mention that who those two, if not other individuals, are, because there was so much you could have done with this. That it's not that it was bad. It's not that it wasn't. It's like a what could have been or what it is.
Dan?
Yeah, no, that's more or less how I feel. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the invasion angle. I think, like you guys have both kind of hinted, could have been better.
Yeah.
But was it devoid of entertainment value? No. It was a good storyline overall.
But you also got a lot out of some wrestlers there. You're just like, wow. You took them to a whole new level with their story or just their character in general.
But then some of them got a demotion too while we're at it.
Yeah.
So,
bound to happen when you got 3 rosters worth of superstars shoved into one.
I mean, it reminds me of today's roster where you get all these guys from NXT coming in, and then from 205 Live, and then you try to incorporate all of them, and it becomes stacked, it becomes overwhelming. Some people just fade away and get lost in the shuffle.
But to WWE's credit, I think for the back during this time frame, I think they were actually more effective at getting people screen time than they are now.
It becomes a lot harder because you don't have as many shows now. You don't have I think right now story-wise, there's not enough writers to really find
good writers.
Well, not just that, but to incorporate. Again, that's a plug. We're doing a bit.
What's your number, Dan?
555. I'm on Facebook.
That's a lot of numbers. But yeah, back then, even with 3 whole rosters, you still found time in a 2-hour show, what Raw used to be.
Yeah.
To squeeze in WCW, ECW,
ECW.
ECW. Or just WWF/WWE people in without having to worry about, we're fading out this person because we don't know what to do with them. We don't have much time, especially on a 3-hour show.
Yeah, I think they were a lot more efficient back then with their promos and their in-ring segments, and they've just gotten, I don't want to say lazier, but everything moves slower, which eats up time for no real reason.
I feel like everything gets hyped to either a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, where as opposed to this time, like we're going to talk about, you had the Invasion, you had, the No Mercies, the Unforgivens, where you could see title changes, you could see things happen.
Yeah, you went from right before SummerSlam all the way to Survivor Series driven by this angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that Survivor Series was made something big again, it's like, why can't we do that now?
No, yeah, I do concur with that. It's very ironic that they had less shows back then. They got more shows now, but for
Less
whatever
time.
reason, the management back then was a whole lot better, or as it seemed.
And they have the WWE Network now for a low price of, why can't I remember it?
I must say $9.99.
$9.99?
It's not $10, it's $9.99. And don't steal my gimmick again. Why are you stealing my gimmick?
Oh, now it's on.
I'm just gonna special guest referee this one.
But they have the network now where they could come up with some sort of program to kind of supplement the things and get more people in and build the programs. They have more available to them now than they did back then.
Yeah.
And they just aren't utilizing it in an effective manner for this.
Nowadays, with streaming services that are available, there's so many people that go on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon, and they find a way to like still watch everything. You have the WWE Network, which is
For only
probably-
$9.99.
God damn it, which is probably like the biggest thing ever to wrestling fans. If you had this way back in the day, all of us would be tuned into the internet, even with crappy internet connections. Now, internet is free and fast for now. But people were more inclined to go onto the internet and go to the network and, oh, I can watch this about these wrestlers. I can watch more 205. Maybe Raw could either be extended or a
have
pre-show.
exclusive network shows that are not on TV.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I feel like no matter which way we discuss it, it seems like with back then, with less, they did more. And now that they have more, they're doing less.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I think it's they're victims to their own genius, because now they are sitting there going, oh well, we've got the network, we've got all of this content, but then it creates this complacency where they then go, I think there's enough, and then it makes them just not try to hone anything in.
Yep.
I think the expression is that WWE books themselves into a corner and they can't get out of it. So once again, we're here to discuss the invasion of 2001. So keep in mind that WCW and the WWF were having the Monday Night War at this time. This was kind of the culmination of all that. So the Monday Night War ends on March 23rd of 2001. This is where WCW is bought. And the final night of Nitro was the March 26, 2001 episode, where you and we got to discuss this a little bit, where Jeff Jarrett gets particularly fired. Even though a lot of people get fired on that night, Jeff Jarrett kind of...
Double J.
How do you spell his name?
I was gonna say FIRED.
FIRVD.
Huh?
But okay, to talk about Jeff Jarrett for a minute, even though I still find his induction very controversial. We'll
That's
talk about
exactly
that another day. You had a guy who, a couple years back, was in the WWF. He was blackmailing Vince for money. It was just a bad time, because even then, you had Jeff Jarrett stop this whole Double J country thing and say like, hey, I'm a wrestler, you're going to respect me. He even broke kayfabe at the time. But then, like, he did his thing. He tried to extort Vince out of money. His contract was up. He still left. He was in WCW, and even there, he was still being the same a-hole, no matter what. And this time, towards the end, you had Russo there. You had, like, he was a part of the NWO, right? Or new NWO or whatever.
Was he? I don't recall.
I don't remember. I
I'm
think
sure.
he was, but this was like NWO 2000 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
When there was no Hogan in the NWO. There was no 20 bajillion members, including Disco Inferno.
It was Jeff Jarrett. Just Jeff Jarrett in an NWO shirt.
Just
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett, that's it. Carrying
But-
on the name.
Jeff Jarrett, like, he's made a career of his own. To be that guy that, hey, I'm going to be outspoken and I don't care what you have to say about me. Well, Vince did care, because that same night, the final night of Nitro, we not only got to see what Vince does graciously well, but he unceremoniously fired him live on TV before the final acquisition of what he thought was going to be rightfully his.
Right.
And then you see other stuff happen, like, oh, you know, I have all this talent to work with now. Who do you want me to keep? Who do I fire, you know?
Yeah.
In typical Vince fashion.
Right. Dan, did this particularly stick out to you?
Not really. This wasn't a highlight for me. But
So you could care less, like Jeff lost his job.
yeah, sorry Jeff. I know you then sidled off into the sunset to TNA.
In the words of Kurt Angle, he heard that TNA was hiring. So then we go on to later on that night where Vince said, I want to make it official at WrestleMania. I will sign the contract there. But then Swerve, Shane comes and buys WCW from under his father's nose, as they said.
But as you're getting into that, what was the final match? I think it was Sting versus...
Booker T versus
No.
Steiner?
I thought it was Sting
versus Flair? Was that
Yeah.
the final match?
Because
I think so.
right after that, Vince comes on the screen. They walk out the ring. Flair being like, whatever. Sting, you kind of see it in his face like, this was my career.
Writing's on the wall, basically,
Yeah.
at this point.
You have like two of WCW's biggest wrestlers. One who could have gone when he should have to the WWE. And then, of course, Ric Flair just being Ric Flair, like, oh, I got money. I'm good. I can
Beautiful.
my way out. And then you have Vince just being Vince, like, hey, I'm gonna do what I want. And then of course to ruin things, Shane comes out of
Shane
nowhere.
O'Mac.
God, I wish he had his theme song then playing.
I loved this segment, and I was sitting at home, and when it started to go, I was switching between the channels because it was playing on both stations.
I never thought of that.
Simulcasted,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was you were seeing essentially the same thing.
Right.
But I was jumping back and forth to who was running Nitro at the time?
TNT.
Yeah, I was jumping back and forth between TNT and Raw and just seeing Shane on the one hitting the last button and then you got Shane on the other. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, it felt really weird because like you're watching Vince like on TNT on WCW Nitro doing this, and you have the split screen of the two of them. So it's like seeing Nitro and you see like the Raw emblem behind Vince,
Yeah.
and then you see Shane right there, and it's like, wait, I want to go to USA. I want to see what this looks like. Oh my God, it's so cool. What's going on? I'm seeing Nitro on USA. This is so awesome. But that whole segment was great because you just see that disbelief in Vince's face, and he sells it so well.
Vince was all in on this purchase.
Vince didn't screw Vince. Shane
screwed Vince.
But then with WrestleMania 17 being around the corner, the whole WCW thing was kind of put off to the side for that point. So WrestleMania 17 happens, Austin turns heel, and then slowly we go back to this whole WCW angle. And then we have, basically how it started was that some WCW stars started interfering in matches. You have Lance Storm, Hugh Morris, and notably you have Booker T, who invaded in the King of the Ring match, the triple threat between Stevie Richards, Chris Jericho, and Steve Austin. Booker T comes out, throws Austin on
who?
the... Stevie Richards?
Who?
Stevie Richards.
Okay.
Yeah, so you see all these WCW stars.
Go ahead.
You see all these WCW stars start interfering in matches, so you're like, what's going on? So it starts building up. But I think the most notable one was once again the night after the King of the Ring, where Booker T comes out and he throws Austin on the announce table. Vince is out in the ring, and Shane comes out and they're kind of having a little scramble there. Booker T comes out, gives a scissor kick to Vince McMahon. And, JR says the battle lines have been drawn, which is now the official start of the InVasion angle. And they go out by testing out the brand extension by having a match. Booker T versus Buff Bagwell.
Bye-bye.
I'm already tuned out. Just like I was then, I'm tuned out already.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I saw this match yesterday. I didn't think it was that bad of a match.
As a match,
Yeah.
you didn't think it was bad.
As a
the
match, I didn't
audience
think-
just completely hated it.
Buff Bagwell has said that I think that, he's like, why would they do it at that arena? Because that arena was like it was a pro WWF crowd and it was an anti-WCW crowd. The next week, they were going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, which would have been more fitting,
A more WCW.
It also might have been intentional to further
Knowing
further
Vince.
sabotage the WCW brand.
Knowing Vince,
So.
you know. But what did you guys think about this match? Honestly, I thought that the match wasn't bad. Then you got the whole thing with Austin and Angle throwing Booker T and Buff Bagwell out of the building.
The match to me felt weird. It felt out of place because it was a WWE thing, and we hadn't established these guys over in the WWE's mythos.
Yeah.
But
it felt forced.
yeah,
It felt like, okay. By the way,
like Roman Reigns. Never mind.
triggers.
I think you mean pushed.
Triggers. Anyways.
Naturally prodded.
Anyways. Good lord. I'm not giving that man an episode. Anyways. You have, like, okay. Great talent with Buff Bagwell and Booker T. But it's just like, all of a sudden, like, you see the WCW logo. You see their promos.
In its full form.
And it's just like, I think they even had a WCW referee, right?
Yep, dressed in WC. The commentators were even
Tony Schiavone or not?
and Arn Anderson. Yep.
That just felt so out of place. It's like you didn't really establish WCW in, and you're just forcing it on us, Vince. What the hell?
Yeah.
It just seems so worked in, like Roman Reigns.
Like Roman Reigns. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, like I said, not all that invested in the match. The aftermath was more exciting for because how old was I? I was 11 at the time.
What year was this?
2001.
I was 15.
I was 8.
So we've got a wide group here, but so I was 11, and so for 11-year-old me, especially having developed such an affection for Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, The Rock, all of the WWE standards, having them swoop in and do what they did at the end, that was the exciting part for me. I was like, good, get them out of here.
Well, 15-year-old me just felt like maybe it's the right thing that I'm seeing Stone Cold like try to drag out the trash that doesn't belong. Because it's like, obviously Raw was more advertised when I was younger.
Yeah.
I didn't really have much access to get to watch Nitro until Nitro became a thing. And even then, Raw was on first, before Nitro. Even though by the time Nitro was a show, it was 3 hours and it started an hour before Monday Night Raw for me.
Well,
So,
I mean, you can catch all the reruns again only on the WWE Network.
for $9.99.
I don't know. I smell a 5-star match.
I mean,
No
but
DQ.
okay, sure, no holds barred.
Roman
Anyways.
Reigns as the ref.
Oh God, I'm out.
Well,
He's
I'm
screwing you
well,
out,
I'm
so.
gonna win. So
The point of it being, it's like it felt so out of place, but then like more of this started being brought into the WWE at this point. Like you started having more WCW wrestlers come in. You started having more of them interfere or just be in their own matches, and you're just like, all right, I guess I have to swallow this in. And this is a reality that Vince hasn't really made something good out of it.
So, speaking of WCW, one of their top stars comes over and makes a very unorthodox debut. We got the whole stalker angle with someone is stalking the Undertaker's wife. Who is it? It comes out in all black and then just takes that ski mask off. And
yo, it's me, it's DDP.
I can appreciate the fact that they try to go out of the whole comfort zone, but
With him?
I feel like I said it before we started recording, is that I feel like DDP would have been the perfect captain for WCW.
Better than Booker T. Better than who they had at the time, because honestly they didn't have their actual main players. Like it's kind of like we still have an A team, but like your last options for the A team leader.
Well, we'll talk about this, but I mean Austin had to turn and actually join the alliance and become the leader.
Now I would have liked to have seen Jimmy King as the leader of WCW.
Or maybe David Arquette.
I will rule you.
But what did you guys
I love
think
that
of this
movie.
angle?
That's another discussion then.
I personally didn't like it, just because, okay, I get where you're going with it. I get that you're bringing in like your A-list like superstar from WCW, but it just doesn't fit him. Like the whole angle of it just doesn't. Like Vince took something of a bad story and put it on a good wrestler, where it's just like, this does not go well at all.
Should have kept Buff Bagwell, put him in this angle.
I think that would have actually looked way better.
Let's just say after this angle, Vince McMahon and DDP were not high-fiving each other. Never mind.
There was still self-high five.
I didn't mind the not the concept of the angle, but the pairing of Undertaker and DDP. But the context of the pairing was, you're right, it was weird.
It just... I felt like if you had that angle, that would have been fine, but not for DDP. And maybe someone else would have worked a whole lot better, but not DDP.
Yeah.
And so from that angle, so now we're in July. We got this match going on where it's Kane and Jericho versus Mike Awesome and Lance Storm, which is interfered by RVD and Tommy Dreamer, ECW original members.
EC Dub. EC Dub.
One more time?
EC Dub.
And you had some members who were on the WWF roster but were originally ECW born and bred. For a second you're like, oh, here we go. But then those guys turn and they start attacking the WWF superstars.
Get the tables.
So at this point, Vince and, Shane, they start, collaborating backstage. What is this? Well, now we got ECW to work with. What are we going to do? They try to put together a plan. Later on that night, they go out, and the ECW roster just flushes everyone out of the ring. Then you have this infamous moment where Paul Heyman gets out of that announce table. And then you have another shocker where Shane says, I'm responsible for the merger of ECW and WCW.
What?
But now ECW has a new owner. Stephanie McMahon comes out, and now it's Vince's kids versus Vince McMahon.
Oh, no.
I thought... Okay, so my first initial reaction, you have the ECW guys come into the tag match. You have them deliberately, just assault Kane and Jericho. My first reaction was okay, ECW has been waiting for its moment. Paul Heyman's always been a mastermind. He always comes up with these weird angles to fit himself in somehow. When you have... I remember it too that night watching Raw. You have all of ECW there. The Dudley Boys, RVD, Taz, Rhino. Tommy Dreamer. I don't think the Sandman was there.
No, Sandman wasn't
there. But you have ECW's core. And they're standing off against WCW, and you're just oh my god, this is gonna be the greatest three-way promotional war ever. And then you just see everyone in WCW just turn around and back next to WCW.
Not like how Roman turned heel, right?
Enough. I swear I'm a Superman punch someone.
Did you really just say that?
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Both
Dan.
of you. Anyways.
Why do you hate Roman?
That's not another podcast for that. You get everybody just turned around and it's just oh my god, everyone's gonna destroy the WWF now. But then kind of sullied the moment for me to see Stephanie come in. I'm just oh, I thought it was gonna be Shane and Paul Heyman, because that's Paul Heyman's child, as he's always said. ECW is his, and it's always been his dream to have his own promotion. And to me, it's Paul Heyman finally getting in another FU to Vince, hey, you're not going to take this away from me. I'm going to screw you like you screwed me. But no, you bring Steph, and it's
yeah,
come on.
It makes sense, the whole patricide angle, but I agree, and no offense to Stephanie.
No, not at all.
Suggesting that we shouldn't have had a woman in charge, but I think aesthetically it would have been better to just keep it as essentially Vince versus Shane with Paul Heyman, because then I think if you had Shane be the person who then is now sort of the patriarch of this merger, versus splitting it between he and his sister, I think that makes his squad look stronger, and then actually looks like they could overtake WWF. And I think that's kind of a misstep that they took. But
I read somewhere that one of the biggest problems of the Invasion was that it was too focused on the McMahons.
Yeah.
Because at that point, like, didn't we just have like this whole thing of like Vince, Stephanie, Shane, Linda, all at one point, all like against each other, and then family reunites, and then again they separate, brother and sister versus parents,
Well,
or
dysfunctional family,
Yeah.
as they've gone on record of saying.
and it's like you're just still working in the whole family thing, and I can agree with that it was way too focused on the McMahons again.
Yeah.
From there, we move on to what was probably my favorite point of the Invasion angle, and yes, I am biased because Steve Austin is my favorite wrestler. So we come at a point where Steve Austin has gone soft. Vince comes out and says, I need the old Stone Cold back to lead the Invasion to victory. Austin,
Was this when he was like being all like kumbaya? and, like,
playing the guitar,
just
giving
being a
hugs.
nice
Yep.
Stone Cold?
Again, gone soft. But then we have a match where it's DDP and Shane McMahon versus Undertaker and Kurt Angle. Once again, there's interference. WWF gets overwhelmed. It seems like WWF is outnumbered and there's no hope.
This is on a Raw, by the way.
This is all on Raw. And then on the July 16th episode, it's the, you know, if the WWE now wants to go back and take a look at how to properly book something throughout the span of a night or within a couple weeks or months, I suggest they go back and they rewatch this because this was absolutely beautiful. The whole thing about Austin being at a bar and Vince tries to go on and says, you know, Steve, I need you. Then Vince rallies up all the troops where there's a classy Freddie Blassie telling everyone, stand up, you know, take a stand and, you know, fight for what you believe in. And you believe it. You're like, wow, they're rallying up all the troops. Then this, they got this tag team match. It's DDP and Rhino versus Kane and The Undertaker, where all hell just breaks loose. Everyone swerves in and the WWF is outnumbered. And with Jim Ross on commentary, Austin comes out of nowhere. You know, he comes backstage, he's got a pipe in his hands, he starts swinging that thing around. Cue stick. And then he just comes to the ring trash talking and just beats the crap out of the Alliance, essentially. Stunner after stunner after stunner.
One of the Alliance were like ECW.
ECW and WCW. But I thought that this was so brilliantly booked. And had Austin not turned heel, this moment would have meant so much more.
So, okay. Did you guys see that live?
I did not see it
Episode
live,
live.
unfortunately. No.
Do you remember watching
I
it?
think so.
Okay, because I do remember. That whole night of watching Raw, I was in the same position, like, just watching, I'm like, what the hell's going on with Steve Austin? This is not the Stone Cold that I grew up watching, you know? And it's like, you have, like, the Invasion troops just, that was their moment. It's like, this is where we can take over. We don't need a pay-per-view to do it. We're going to do it on a Raw.
Right.
And you haven't seen something that, like, climactic happen in a while. Like, not since NWO with Nitros. And then all of a sudden you hear the glass break, Stone Cold's music hits hard. That I think that's one of the biggest pops that Stone Cold has ever received in his whole career. And you see and I got to see Stone Cold Steve Austin, the beer drinking, ass kicking son of a bitch who just, you know, just
get in his way,
kick
will
ass
knock you
and take
down.
things, yeah. And it's just like you see him single-handedly almost destroy half of that, like, roster in the ring against, like, Kane, Taker, Jericho, and
You got all these big names who couldn't hold it down.
Exactly.
And then you got Austin who comes in and just literally raises hell.
And then, like, you see them all standing there, like, helping pick each other up. And, like, you see Austin, like, look at everybody, like, you want a leader, here's your leader.
Yeah.
I'm in. And it's like, that was, like, I think the greatest moment to see live. And, yeah, with having Jim Ross, Michael Cole, and I think Lawler as well announced.
There was no Lawler.
Oh, no,
He
that's
was
right,
fired
yeah.
at the time.
It was just them two. It's just, like, you have something so big. And to hear those voices, like, just, like, tell you what's going on just felt like the greatest moment in wrestling history as far as this, like, booked event was with the whole Invasion.
There was a big moment when, considering you'd had such heavy domination by the WCW, ECW grouping up to that point, and then you have your major star come out and, spoiler alert, make one last hurrah before
Showing his true colors.
His true colors are revealed. So,
But
no,
you-
it was a good night, good scene.
But even then, that was to have such a big build up to even something even bigger coming
Yeah.
was also a good thing.
Um,
me.
man, that moment, I mean, I can watch over and over. But all this leads to the InVasion pay-per-view, where they got a whole bunch of matches there.
Brought to you by PlayStation.
And the WWE Network for only $9.99.
WWE Network didn't exist yet.
Well, I mean, like this podcast, and then with
I'll
the
go back and watch it on the WWE Network for
$9.99.
gimmick infringement.
Just make this a
17,960
TLC match. How about that?
17,964 people in attendance at the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio, July 22nd, 2001, Invasion pay-per-view.
There you go.
We go to the inaugural Brawl as our main event. Booker T, Bubba Ray Dudley, Diamond Dallas Page, Devon Dudley, and Rhino versus Team WWF. Chris Jericho, Kane, Kurt Angle, Steve Austin, and The Undertaker.
Great match. The little segment that they had where Vince was like, Steve, I need you to be focused, and he's like, are you trying to rally me up? You know, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna kick somebody's ass. So that old Stone Cold was there going into the match. Great match, but then at the end of the match, Steve Austin turns, stuns Angle, puts Booker T to cover him, 1, 2, 3, and JR, why Austin? Why, damn it?
You
why?
son of a bitch!
Austin turns again. What do we think about this? I personally thought that it sucked. I thought that
It was the perfect build up though for what's going on.
I think you're partial because of the fact that you love Stone Cold.
But I mean, who's buying it?
17,964 people.
By force.
Before there was a network for only $9.99. Austin built the WWF. He was there for the
house that Austin built.
He was
Well, we can't really say he built the WWE.
Well, I mean,
he built the Attitude.
the Attitude Era, but he helped build that house, is what I'm trying to say. So now all of a sudden,
Or at least the garage.
now he's going against it.
Well, he explains that he felt underappreciated, especially after Vince belittling him.
Okay, but if we can step outside of storyline
If we
for
can
a
be
second.
serious for a second.
Here's the thing, like Dan says, you're biased to it.
But
But
it's
it-
your favorite superstar.
Yeah, no matter what. Like if you take out the fact that he is your favorite, it's perfect because other than the fact that he felt underappreciated, you have the ultimate turn on Vince again. You have the rivalry that's been Austin McMahon. It's just another chapter in it.
And if we can go back real quick to the previous show, we just saw Austin as the one that could dominate the entire alliance, and now he's not with the WWE anymore. So you've just taken the only person that could hurt the alliance and moved him over there. So then it kind of gives this actual sense of hopelessness to the WWF for a second, until a short time later when you get another major player back on the table.
But let's be honest here, Austin was not Austin when he was in the Alliance. I mean, we can agree on that, right?
We can, but like I said, you still add on to the whole Austin McMahon thing overall. But yeah, I get it. Like something you didn't expect to see happen, it threw everybody off, and it's like, okay, where does the WWE or WWF stand as an organization now? Because you lost your key player.
One could argue that Austin was the sixth man, like we discussed on a previous episode.
Oh my god!
Like Hulk Hogan.
Remember his vicious turn, but remember these are two different types of turns. But
Yes.
Not like Roman.
I swear to Christ.
Shortly, Dan, you just alluded to this. Now you got The Rock, who comes back. And they got the whole segment where, they got Vince and Shane in the ring, and who's The Rock going to choose? Whose side is he on?
Story-wise, he was on a suspension.
What The Rock is cooking.
What just happened?
Is Jim Johnson here?
No. He's in his bajillion-dollar home.
Well, he got fired, so I don't know about that. But
He gets royalties from every download off of the Apple Store.
Yeah. But again, you have someone who's on a suspension, quote unquote. He comes back during a critical moment, and it's like go time. Who are you aligned with? Where do you feel you belong?
let me see if I can pick your guys' brain for a second, because we were just talking about Austin, going over there. My bias for Steve Austin being my favorite wrestler aside, I thought that The Rock joining the Alliance would make a whole lot more sense. Why? Because if there was any time to boo The Rock, The Rock was already at that point where he's starting to make films, and they had this whole thing at SummerSlam the next year where it was him versus Brock, and people were already booing The Rock. Oh, you're going to Hollywood. We're not gonna cheer you anymore. And the fact that The Rock took that beating at Mania at the hands of Vince and Austin, then the next night in that steel cage match, I was like, for the Rock, it should have been, you're not going to team up with Vince, you're going to team up with Shane, because this guy just screwed you out of the title and screwed you again, suspended you, and now you're back and now you're going on his side.
I can see that.
I can see where that would weigh in too, but you have to keep in mind, you've never seen The Rock really have a home other than the WWF.
Yeah,
that's
I was going to say that. Austin had been in WCW at
and
one
even
point.
been in
ECW.
ECW.
And ECW. So he has an affection for these two
Regardless.
organizations.
But The Rock,
Purebred.
purebred of the WWF. That's him. That's where he belongs. That's what he's known. So it's also a good angle too, because it's sold to him like, oh, you're right. I was screwed over by this man. I was screwed over out of my championship. I was suspended.
But let me show you that I'm better.
Yeah. I'm the better man, and I should have been the one to lead the team in the beginning. That's where they were going with this, which was also a good thing, because this also adds on to the Rock and Austin feud, because they've always been able to sell such great events.
Yeah.
This InVasion angle got even better, bringing them two against each other again for the umpteenth time. But unlike Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar,
Which is happening at SummerSlam, which you can catch on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Then, now, forever.
God, why? But at least The Rock and Austin was tolerable.
Kind of playing to what we were saying about you with Austin. The Rock was my favorite wrestler. And so he comes in and he hits the Rock. I think he hits the rock bottom on Vince first.
Yep.
And he gets up and he shakes Shane's hand. And for me, that moment for me was kind of the same. Oh, what just happened? Because then my initial reaction is The Rock just turned.
Yep.
But then you see him. He's smiling, the big smile, the frown, the rock bottom to Shane, and I was. Ugh! So I unfortunately, Shant, I'm sorry, I got to have what I wanted.
Dan, get out.
The thing is, though, too, not only does he hit him with the rock bottom, he solidifies being back by hitting Shane with the people's elbow.
Yeah.
And then he claims that finally, The Rock has come back to the WWF. That's him solidifying, hey, I'm a part of the WWF no matter what.
Through and through.
So with The Rock being back and on the WWF side, we now build to SummerSlam, which, Dan, if you want to get your notes ready,
honestly, one of my favorite pay-per-views.
A really
ever.
good SummerSlam, and WWE, take note of how you book a SummerSlam.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
Unlike Roman Reigns' Spears.
So SummerSlam 2001 brought to you by Chef Boyardee Ravioli, and I assume there are other pastas.
Sidebar real quick. I'm going to bring a bell for every time you mention Roman Reigns.
Bing!
Roman.
Bing!
Anyways.
August 19th, 2001, 15,000.
The same date as this year's SummerSlam.
Weird.
Ironically.
15,293 people in attendance.
Woo!
I believe that... is this the first... Yeah, this is the first time that the WCW title is defended on a WWE pay-per-view.
Yes.
And actually headlines the show. because
Wait. What headlines the show?
The Rock versus Booker T.
Excuse me, it's the book.
The book
Thank you.
with Shane O'Mac for the WCW Championship.
I'm sorry, the what?
The WCW Championship.
Thank you.
No, that wasn't good enough.
The WCW.
No, he's got to say it.
WCW.
I'll take that one.
WCW.
I'll take that one.
Wrestling. So Jacqueline, Lita, Molly Holly defeat Ivory, Stacy, and Tori Wilson.
That was on the pre-show.
Look, it's same day. Second match. Edge defeating Lance Storm.
Let's talk about
for
that
the
for a
IC
second.
title.
Because a lot of people talk about this match as being very underrated and not getting the credit that it deserves just because it's not a WWF title match.
I don't know where it is.
It's the first match,
No,
Dan.
I know they did the different formatting on this one. One of my favorite moments of this match is, I think this is the one, is Edge coming off the ropes. Lance Storm drops and catches him in the single leg crab, and it's a wonderful spot. I love that move transition so much.
What movie is that on the list?
I have the list on me.
Move 793, I think.
What's move 794?
It starts with an arm and ends in a bar.
So
Wait,
Edge,
what move is it?
The arm bar.
Oh. So Edge walks out. Storm performs super kick on Christian.
That's Shawn
and,
Michaels.
Pinned Edge for a near fall. Edge performed execution on Storm to win the title.
So here's the thing. Just to talk about these two wrestlers, Edge has always been one of the greatest wrestlers in WWE history. Lance Storm never gets credit as a good wrestler ever, whether it's for WCW or ECW.
I think it's just because he's not that charismatic compared to other people.
Yeah, he can't sell a bit. He can't do a promo.
Guys, I mean, it's shameful to say, but the one thing that he does get remembered for is, you guys remember when Austin was GM in 03 and Lance Storm is having this match, Austin comes out and goes, boring. With Austin and The Rock, you got to be careful, because if those guys splash something on you, chances are it's going to stay with you.
But the thing is, though, like, technically wise, if we could take out all the stuff that's supposed to make you a talent in the WWE, on paper, Lance Storm has always been a good wrestler. He has had so many titles under his name.
Very decorated.
Yeah, you can't say that the man doesn't know how to wrestle. But
Like
God,
Roman.
Ding!
God, can you say that Lance cannot sell anything?
Well, if you could be
Life.
serious for a minute.
If I could be serious for a minute.
Or two.
Or 10.
Keep going. RVD defeating Jeff Hardy in the ladder match.
Another
for
great match.
The hardcore title?
I believe.
Which was hardly mentioned at the time. It seemed like the hardcore championship wasn't as big as it used to be at this point.
But it was a brilliant concept. Very brilliant.
Especially when you have not only the guy who is one half of Team Extreme that has been known to like put himself at by
Through
any means
abuse.
necessary of abuse to win, but you have
RVD.
the whole effing show
Damn.
with RVD and in ECW, other than being their television champion for such a long time, he was the innovator of violence. He was hardcore. I mean, not as true to definition like Tommy Dreamer or the Sandman, or Sabu. Also great wrestlers that you can find
On the WWE network for only
$9.99.
Stop
I
it.
swear, you take this bit, I will throw you through a table.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention something. So they had the 24/7 rule with the hardcore title. It seems like now with Brock being the Universal Champion, it's like the anti-24/7 rule.
It's like the one...
The once a year
The one
rule.
365.
That's such a horrible thing.
Anyway.
That belt.
Continue.
Next up, we got the Brothers of Destruction.
We got to talk about this for a second.
Kane and The Undertaker with Sarah holding the WWF Tag Championship.
Don't diminish it, Dan.
Defeating DDP and who better than Canyon?
Austin.
Fair enough. For the WCW WWF Unification Tag Team Championship. That was a mess, but they unify the belts.
I mean, but DDP gets pummeled in this. Does he even get any offense?
I don't think he did.
I mean, The Undertaker just
Well, he was taking all his aggression in the storyline of him being Sarah Stalker.
But I think this was also a burial as DDP being a WCW born and bred. You know,
which it was, because,
wrestler.
my God.
Page attempted to escape the cage, but Undertaker performed a chokeslam on Page. Undertaker performed a last ride on Page to win the match. This was a 10-minute match.
Essentially
in a steel
DDP.
cage.
In a steel cage. The Olympic hero, it's true, Kurt Angle,
He sucks.
defeats Stone Cold Steve
He
Austin
sucks.
in a WWF Championship match. Austin retains.
Let's talk about this match for a quick second because
I can be serious for a second.
We're
Wrong
past
match.
Lance Storm.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think Kurt Angle and Austin and a lot of people have said that this match is... It's a match where Kurt Angle just keeps on coming. He keeps on coming. He keeps on coming. He takes 3 stunners, kicks out. He's bleeding. He takes all this abuse. Austin is just the relentless bad guy who won't stop. Kurt Angle just will not stay down. And I think this match, awesome, great stuff. Yeah, the whole DQ thing, it's like, okay, fine, diminishes it a little bit, but I think just the psychology of this match was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, where do you go with it? Like, honestly.
Unforgiven.
Well, you go to
No,
Unforgiven.
I get...
Which
Okay,
you can
Dix.
watch on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
Real quick, let me dive in. I'm going to read the last couple sentences to say how the match actually ends. So, Angle hits an angle slam, pins Austin for a near fall. Austin attacks a ref, gets DDT'd. Austin hits Angle with a low blow and stuns another ref. Austin hits another ref with the title belt. Angle hits another angle slam. Angle pins Austin, but the referee disqualifies Austin, and Angle is devastated and puts that referee in an ankle lock.
I wonder how much Angle and Austin were fined for using refs.
Probably nothing, because I think this predated the fighting system.
Yes.
But even then, like, there was no other way to really end the match. Because obviously you needed Austin to hold it. You needed to carry the championship over. And it's like,
Yeah, you get Austin.
I can't find, like, there's no legit way that Austin was going to go down. So what does he have to do? Oh, let me just stun a couple referees. What that ain't going to do? Oh, I didn't get what I wanted? I'm just ankle lock the hell out of your ankle and just break it.
Yeah, so this is a very blatant show by Austin of, well, you know what, I'm going to hold on to this title however I can. And then obviously, yeah, that leads to Unforgiven in Pittsburgh, PA.
Which we are not going back to for quite some time because you guys killed Ziggler versus Rollins. Go ahead.
Thanks, guys.
5,
But
4,
moving...
3, 2, 1.
Roman.
So anyway,
Roman.
main
I was trying
event,
to sell it.
ding, ding, ding.
Thank
you.
Main event, Booker T defending WCW Championship against The Rock. Rock applies sharpshooter, Shane distracts ref, moving down. Booker hits the bookend for a near fall. Rock spinebuster, People's elbow, Shane pulls out the ref. Rock bottom to Shane outside. Booker scissors kick and the spinneroonie, but The Rock kips up, no selling it. Performs the rock bottom to win the championship and the first WCW championship reign in WWF.
Short-lived, by the way.
But I think, I mean, we'll get to that, but I think it is very much appropriate. Again, I could be biased. Austin as WWF champion, The Rock as WCW champion, the two of the biggest stars, with all due respect to everybody else, you know, who was at the roster at the time. I think, once again, it's like you said, a perfect way to kind of build the invasion angle. We're moving towards Austin and The Rock having both titles on respective shoulders.
It became a game of capture the flag.
Yes. So, after SummerSlam, Austin and Angle start this feud where Austin steals the gold medals and whatnot. Now, rumor is that because of the 9/11 attacks, Angle won the championship. Originally, Austin was supposed to keep this belt. He was not supposed to lose it. But because of the attacks in 9/11, WWF thought that, you know, kind of a patriotic, you know, nod.
Give the American hero his win in his hometown. Feel good moment for everybody after all of that.
Even though Austin technically didn't lose because he had his hand underneath the rope. So Austin and Angle feud. Like I said, we get to Unforgiven. Austin drops the title, gets it back quite some time later. The Rock also wrestles in a handicap match at Unforgiven, which if you want to...
I can give some quick information. We'll just breeze through this one. So September 23rd, 2001. No offense to the InVasion angle, but as we've seen over these pay-per-views, we keep losing live attendance. I don't know if that's just arena size or lack of ticket sales. But we go on, and my printouts actually got shorter too. The Rock, Booker T, and Shane in a handicap match for the WCW Championship.
Which The Rock won.
The Rock did win. Booker tried to pin The Rock, but Mike Chioda and a WWF referee attack Nick Patrick, who was refereeing the match. Earl Hebner, in true Earl Hebner fashion, because he always did the pin count for The Rock. Replaced Patrick, took over, and The Rock wins via rock bottom. Angle of the WWF defeats Stone Cold Steve Austin. What of the Alliance?
He didn't really lose.
By submission.
Not really.
Well, did he grab the rope?
Well, his hand was underneath the rope when he tapped out.
Sean, let go
We
of the
are
bias.
just
Let
stating
go
logistics
of
here.
The bias.
So, Austin performs pile driver for a near fall. Austin's Stone Cold stunner attempt, but Angle counters into the ankle lock. Austin submits to the hold, meaning Angle won the title following his title win. Angle celebrated with his family, and the entire roster came out to celebrate. So, you get your feel-good moment.
America.
For only like a week. I want to talk about this for a second. The Rock and Y2J feud, which started, shortly after this. So The Rock and Jericho were tag teaming there for a while until in one match Jericho accidentally hits The Rock with a steel chair. And then they go on to that segment of insulting Steph. And then they win the tag team titles. And then on that same night, Austin wins the WWF title back from Kurt Angle. But that whole, and then, if you want to get to No Mercy, Dan, where...
I don't have that one.
Never mind.
We can cover that in part 2.
Or you can watch it on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
I do have here, actually, as a result, McFoley made triple threat for the WWF title at No Mercy, pitting Austin versus RVD and Angle. Austin pinned RVD with a stunner. No Mercy, Jericho defeats The Rock for the WCW Championship.
Well, let's talk about that for a brief second. What did you guys think about that Y2J and Rock side feud that was going on? Because
Not needed.
Really?
Personally, what do you gain out of it?
Well, Jericho...
An ego versus an ego?
Yeah,
that's every
kind of
match.
the angle. It fit Jericho's character, but in among all the other shit going on, I don't think it was necessary to go with that.
So let me throw in this then.
Throw The Rock against DDP for the title. Bring DDP up to the top of the card.
God, not again. Well, let me throw in this little thing. If it was ever worked into the InVasion storyline, Jericho was technically a WCW wrestler.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think at one point an ECW wrestler.
Yep.
Why not at this point with The Rock and Jericho feuding, he turns on the
goes to the
alliance.
Yeah, you have him pull the same thing where he feels like he's overshadowed by The Rock. I'm not getting the glory for my contributions to this.
Yeah, I think that would have worked out a lot more in the InVasion angle, because you have someone who's now feeling just as jaded as Austin was kind of go home back to WCW and ECW. I think it would have worked out pretty well, and it would have added more to the whole Rock versus Jericho thing. It just made it seem like, oh, we need to have some tension within the WWF as well. Yeah. Because obviously you can't have that many A-listers in Team WWF and wonder like, oh, why aren't they getting at each other?
Yeah.
I think that would have been better.
So now we come to where Shane teases a turncoat. And so you have Vince McMahon versus Shane McMahon street fight. Then we get all this interference, preceded by Paul Heyman's incessant question of, but whose side are they on?
But who better than Canyon?
Austin. I'll tell you who's not better than Canyon.
Roman?
Ding.
I told you I'm not going to say that.
But then you have Kurt Angle turn his back on the WWF.
It was bound to happen.
But did you guys think that this was the right guy? We were just talking about Jericho.
It should have been Jericho.
Should have been Jericho, but it's Kurt Angle.
Yes.
Why do you think it was right for Angle to be the one to finally turn? Because Vince had kind of been building this thing like there's a rat even in our group. I will weed out who the rat is. But he never expected it to be Angle, even though the story says.
I think it lent itself to it because obviously Kurt was... It was sort of like Kurt took the role we were just talking about for Jericho, even though he had no particular connection to
WCW
to either of them. So I thought he kind of took that role, throwing him over there. It gave the same thing with now the internal thing of, well, Kurt kind of wants to be the face of this alliance now, but Austin is Austin. And so it makes that tension there, which I believe ultimately comes back in the long run, does it not?
It does. We're now in November. Vince says someone is defecting to Team WWF. He teases that it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. You get all these interrogation segments backstage. Same night, The Rock wins back the WCW title from Jericho.
So here's the thing. Vince has always known that there's always a defecto in both organizations. Is he just a clever genius with that, or is that his way of like selling the story a little bit more at this point?
Well, I think with this one, I think we're supposed to kind of infer that maybe the whole the last turn we discussed was premeditated.
Yeah.
It was a double agent kind of thing. So for that, yeah, I think that's supposed to suggest that Vince was the mastermind behind the whole damn thing.
And then you get these segments where, the Lions backstage is like, I hope you didn't sell us out. And he's like, why would I turn my back on you guys? Do you guys not trust me? It's like, he's a
DTA.
rattlesnake, Exactly. And then Taz comes out and says DTA stands for Don't Trust Austin. So I thought it was brilliant because you think that, Austin's easy to go back, at Survivor Series when it counts. Chris Jericho, Kane, Undertaker and Big Show versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Shane McMahon.
Real quick, I want to chime in and say there is no reason the WWE should have even been possible to lose this match based on that team. Why is WCW even trying?
Seriously, like you name the WCW team one more time.
Go ahead,
Just
WCW
them.
team.
It's Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle.
Stop right there.
That's it. Those are the only formidable people on that team. Go to the WWF team. Read it backwards. Read it backwards.
The WWF team.
Backwards, it's Big Show, Taker, Kane.
All right, stop there. So you have three guys that are 7 feet tall
and above,
and over 350 pounds.
330.
Yeah, in that ballpark. If you have that match alone, Austin and Kurt shouldn't walk out.
Heck, the Big Show alone could have done it himself.
Not if you use any other Survivor Series match in history as an example.
Or 27 F5s.
But moving on. So no reason WWF should have even remotely come close to losing this match anyhow, but go ahead.
So, Survivor Series, I love this match. It's what a traditional 5-on-5 match should be, and the stakes are very much high. Kurt Angle winds up being the rat.
What?
And turns back to the WWF.
Oh no.
And the alliance is put to rest. WWF wins. The invasion is over.
Yep.
Kind
of.
We'll say 95% over. Because there's still like some final things that weren't.
Like any rebellion, you've still got a couple of freedom fighters left at the end that have to be squashed. So.
But okay. Ironic that it's Kurt Angle? No. Should it have been somebody else? Yes.
Maybe.
Booker T.
The 5-time.
5-time?
5-time.
5-time?
5-time.
Oh, I think
he's actually a 6-time.
Well, that works then because we said it 6
Start
times.
over.
Oh God, no! Moving on.
Yes, please.
So okay, I know you wanted to talk about this. So WWF wins. The next night is what I like to call Vince doing some cleaning house.
Cleaning house, and also his like what do you call it after like not his victory walk or like chant? It's kind of like his victory parade.
Victory lap.
Yeah, like he's finally claiming like I finally have it. It's all mine.
It's all mine.
There's nothing left now. There's nothing that will stop me from finally having what I've been wanting for so damn long.
The NWO. That's
Anyways.
not. Oh, sorry, we're not there yet.
Yeah, no, but Vince is doing what Vince usually does. His whole bit of just firing people. Didn't he at one point inaugurate the beginning of the Kiss My Ass Club?
With William Regal, yeah. That's when that was
In
born.
typical Vince, I'm the biggest asshole McMahon fashion.
Well, you and I were talking about this, how Vince goes on to say, finally, I have full control. Everything is under my belt. And then finally, Ric Flair comes out.
But who?
Woo! Thank you.
But, okay, so with that, this is what I wanted to talk about. Because obviously, like you said, everything has to have an end somehow. Like the final things have to be put into their place. You have Ric Flair come out. It's like, wait, you've been gone a very long time. You haven't been back in a WWE event for years now.
But we talked about him walking out of that last episode of Nitro with his money. He had to do something with it, right?
Told you.
So, here's the thing. As much as Shane and Steph bought with most of their money WCW and ECW, they were no longer shareholders of their WWF stock.
So it had to go to somebody.
And ironically, who better than...
Canyon?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, yeah, Canyon. But who better than the man who left the organization that he felt was always right for him to come back and be like, what was it called again?
The consortium?
The consortium. He was the consortium of what I think is the icing on the cake of the invasion. Because you have the one man that has always been a thorn bigger than Austin in McMahon's side. You have the one guy who not only is he self-proclaimed, but he is possibly, like I've always said, in that era, the greatest wrestler of all time. The wheeling dealing, limousine riding,
Jeff Lyon,
son of a gun. Woo!
Woo! Nature boy.
Ric Flair. Tell him, not only did I buy part ownership of the WWF, but we are now partners.
And he hugs him.
Preceded by the little ear gesture by Vince.
Again, another thing that just ruins Vince's life. Because if it's not Austin, if it's not The Rock, if it's not Shawn Michaels,
or
if it's
his
not
kids.
his kids,
Or Roman.
or no, Roman doesn't do anything.
They've always been on the same side.
But if it's not a particular person ruining McMahon's life, why not better than the Nature Boy to do it?
Point taken. Dan, your sort of wrap up on the invasion angle?
Again, I liked it. I found it to be a highly enjoyable few months. I think it was an okay way to end it. Again, I wasn't a huge fan of the final Survivor Series match that kind of sent it out because it wasn't believable to me that WCW stood a chance.
I agree with that because honestly, if you're gonna have a match, you need to have, I think, an equal power versus power move, not like where 5 out of the 10 can wrestle each other and 3 against 2 can just dominate.
Yeah.
I agree with that because really it's like this is probably the worst booking of a way to end something so good.
Yeah.
On paper, but again, at the time it was what it was.
Yeah, but then we moved into the brand split with the draft, the separate titles.
Which we should talk about.
Which
on
we
a
will.
future
Yes.
episode.
But no, I thought it was okay.
I feel like at everybody's core, you can look at any angle and say that could have been better, this could have been better, I could have done this better. The invasion angle was not perfect by far, as we've talked about today, but I feel like at the end of the day, you can look back and you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen it, you can catch it on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
Brought to you by Clearasil.
Or Chef Boyardee.
Or Roman.
Ding.
So there you go, guys. We covered the invasion angle, the genesis, the climax, and the conclusion of it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you all next time.